All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Rising Stronger. Today, I have a very special guest that I've been super excited to have on here. His name is Brannon Patrick. And do you want to do your intro or should I?
It's up to you. Why don't I want to hear you do my intro?
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't let the ego get too big. But,
Okay.
but Brannon is the founder and owner of Therapy Co.
hmm
And that's a comprehensive mental health clinic that treats the root of the problem. He's developed a unique program that helps to heal trauma, addiction, betrayal, and moving through faith crisis. Brannon also, we were just joking. I was saying he's famous around here, at least in my family, but he's got three podcasts that he's done. Therapy Brothers that he's on with him and his brother Tyler, the Brannon Patrick Show, and then you also had the Betrayed, the Addicted, and the Expert.
hmm
Um, and the reason I wanted to have Brannon on is because not too long ago, I had another really great therapist on, and we were talking about kind of this scary situation he had with a supervisor. And we turned it into like talking about red flags and green flags with different therapists. And I think I might have scared some of my listeners hearing about like the scary situation. But I reassured them that there are also like phenomenal, life-changing, amazing therapists out there. And I consider Brannon and his brother Tyler to be two of those therapists.
And I consider you to be one.
Aw,
So,
thank
yeah, for sure.
you. But I can say that because Brannon has like literally helped change and transform my life, and helped me grow in the ways that he teaches. So I wanted to have him on here to kind of talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, well, thanks, Lisa. It's really good to be here, and I can't wait to dive in.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Brannon.
hmm
Um, so Brannon and I've known Brannon for about 7 years now, which is
That's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
Time goes so fast.
Yeah.
Like, think how old our kids were back then.
I
Like,
know.
we were in the thick of raising them, Now they're like moving on in
And
life.
then
My
teenage.
daughter graduates this year, so
Wow.
I'm feeling old.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And then his brother Tyler just became a grandfather. You guys getting up?
he's really making it known to the world. Like, I'm a grandpa. Like, we get it, Tyler. We understand. So, but it's fun.
But not to boost his ego too much, but in all seriousness, like Tyler and Brannon are two therapists that out of everyone I've ever known or listened to, like I've shared with you, and hopefully I'll tell Tyler the same in person, but just how, you know, I was sharing like the green flag therapists are very like kind and compassionate, non-judgmental, and you guys both have all of those qualities. Plus, Brandon's one of those therapists who also has rigorous honesty and will challenge people and kind of push them toward change and growth. And,
Mhm.
out of the different addiction therapists, like you, um, really, I think you go above and beyond addiction and betrayal and really teach people like how to step out of their comfort zone and live
Mhm.
like a brave and open-hearted life, living authentically and bravely, with integrity, creating intention and shifts. And so I wanted you to come on and talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've learned over the years. I I kind of fell into treating addiction. Um, and at first I had no idea what I was doing. But like the difference between sobriety and recovery is actually really important to understand because people can get in a state of management of their addiction and they're still in a state of misery.
Hmm.
Um, they've just removed the thing that was helping them numb out, and but so they're sober but they're not in recovery.
Hmm.
And so what you just said, Lisa, is absolutely important, and where I've gone is recovery is so much more than that sobriety. It's like figuring out how to live a life of freedom and purpose and just feel alive and feel good and have healthy relationships and all of the things, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you do that? Like, what do you teach people to do?
Oh, that's a big question. Um, so yeah, where do I begin? It really, you start with where they're at. Um, I'm not gonna throw them in the deep end right off the bat. They might just be barely coming to terms with the fact that they're struggling with an addiction.
Mhm.
Um, and so we're not doing deep trauma work on the first session. We're helping them get conscious and honest. I think that's where you start is let's get honest with what is. Um, and it might be painful, but let's just take a look at it. Let's get aware that this is what's going on. Um, Once they get honest with it, then there's some real hope to address it and move forward and actually do some things that can shift everything for them. Um, so I could take you through the whole process right now, Lisa, or we could take like piece by piece, but it really does start with that, like thing. It's so interesting to me, Lisa, and you probably experienced this, where especially treating addiction, people come into therapy and they want help, but they don't want to be honest about the problem that they have.
Mhm.
And so as a therapist and as an addiction therapist, you get in this place where it's like me and my teenagers, right? You get in this place where I don't want to power struggle with you.
Right.
That doesn't do us any good. But I'm gonna be a source of truth and honesty with you.
Mm.
And if you actually want to change, then as much as you hate that, you're gonna like that, and then we'll help you navigate through that from there.
Mm.
Um, but I'm not gonna fight with you about, like, if you want to go use drugs more and that's what you choose, and great. Why are you paying me in my office? Like, um, or I'll even help them. Like, I'll flush out being honest about their ambivalence. Be honest about your fence sitting. Like, you're in between. You don't want to let go of your addiction, but you do. Like,
Mhm.
let's be honest that that's where you're at.
Right.
But wherever you're at, like, let's just look at it
Yeah.
and start there.
Yeah.
So,
And like I said, I think you do a great job of meeting people where they're at and kind of helping them figure out their why. Like if they want to make changes and shifts, like why? What do you want to create in your life? Like Brandon has actually like I have this podcast actually, probably because of your inspiration, because like I've been listening for years and really thinking about like myself too, like how do I create shifts and changes and be brave with my life and intentional and uh I had shared when I first started this podcast, like I was a shy kid,
uh
If
huh.
you had told me as a kid that I'd ever be doing that, I'd be like, yeah, right. And I remember doing it for the first time and it felt so vulnerable because on my podcast I talk as a therapist, but also combining it with like Lisa the human
Mm-hmm.
and some of my struggles and life experiences and how I've used those things to create. I'm still creating my best and truest life. And I remember you sharing about like, oh, if you're on a podcast someday, and I was like, huh, I never,
Yeah.
you know,
Here you are.
yeah.
I was extremely shy in high school, and like I would like raise my hand to answer a question like rarely in class, and
Mhm.
if I did, I'd turn like beet red, and
Mhm.
just because I was talking in front of people. And it's interesting because I look back on that, I'm like, yeah, like you say, I've been podcasting for over a decade now, and
Mhm.
and also like I've been doing some crazy things, Lisa, like
Yeah.
talking about sex in church, like
Mhm.
educating people about sexuality and stuff in church, and getting in front of big audiences and talking about these kind of taboo, awkward topics. And I look at that, I'm like, if you were to take me as that 16-year-old who's like trying to hide under a rock,
Mhm.
to me standing in front of a large audience talking about an uncomfortable topic that people don't, or podcasting to thousands of people, it's like, well, like how did that happen?
Yeah.
um and it's interesting you bring this up, Lisa, because it's actually the same process as, and this is going to sound weird, but it's the same process as recovery from addiction. Is how it happened. I went from honestly not living my true self and being shackled by shame, because that, like, my true self is out there. My true self is more of kind of an extrovert, and I don't mind talking in public, and but I wasn't that when I was young, because I was just swallowed by the shame. Just, it was overwhelming. Um, and I've gone through a personal process of living that way and really asking myself, and sounds, as you're talking too, Lisa, you're talking about your experience too,
Mhm.
asking myself, do I want to spend my life there trying to play it safe,
Mhm.
um, or I need to do some work, and I need to face some things so that I can feel more authentic and more alive. So I've been through it myself for sure, and but there's a lot to that process. So,
What does that look like for you, or what did it look like for you?
well, the 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 first part, like I talked about earlier, is like taking a step back and looking at what you're creating. Like what are you manifesting? How are you showing up in the world?
Mhm.
Get conscious of that. So when I talk about honesty, that's the first step. Like if a therapist is helping you get honest, they're helping you get conscious of, this is what I'm creating. Like let's use me as an example, right? When I was 16, I had like two friends that I'd hang out with, and they weren't even like friends that I really wanted to hang out with, but they were just
Mhm.
like, okay, like I guess I'll hang out with you guys.
Mhm.
Um,
You're here.
yeah, yeah. Um, I wasn't like, as a 16-year-old, I was kind of hoping for a girlfriend, or like a girl would like me. That wasn't happening.
Mhm.
Um, I wasn't thriving at school or in sports. I was just kind of living, just kind of
Mhm.
getting by. So, so how do I get conscious of that? I have to want to get conscious, and the pain is a good motivator. So it was painful to live in this state of shame for me. But I had to be honest with myself and say, like, oh, these are not the outcomes that I want in my life.
Mhm.
Why am I living this way? And the truth is I'm creating this.
Mhm.
Like, I can try to blame that. I could think of things to blame. I blame my parents, or I blame my older brother because he's always stepping in the spotlight and I never have a chance. So I'm just a victim of him, and that's all unconsciousness.
Mhm.
That's all, versus like, no, my life is my life and I'm creating this.
Right.
So the first step. Now, that's that's difficult, Lisa. That's hard. But I hate to tell you, that's not even the hardest part. So the next step is to look at, okay, if I don't want that, the fruits of my life,
Mhm.
then how do I change it? And I think a knee jerk reaction is people just try to like get to work and like change it. And what they'll often do is swing a pendulum from one side to another. So, like, if I was desperate for love or friends, and so I'm shy and scared to talk to anybody because I don't feel like I'm lovable, to I'm way too outgoing and I'm really trying to get friends and I want to, then everybody's going to push away from me and I'll still be acting unlovable, right? So, here's the difficult part is there's some faulty core beliefs and there's some trauma underneath these outcomes that you're not wanting in your life,
Mhm.
that you get to identify them, but then the next step is to actually turn and face them and sit with them and be with them, and not know where you're going to land. And so there's this real vulnerable state of like courage
Hmm.
and faith that has to exist for you to shift the way you're resonating. You have to be in that place for a minute. And this is why my favorite quote is the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. That's
Hmm.
where that comes in is I get conscious and then there's this threshold and I'm looking at this threshold and I'm like, yikes, that cave's scary.
Hmm.
Ah, but I know that if I want different things in my life, I got to go in there.
Yeah.
Um, and I can give an example to make this make sense, but um, it it requires some courage and vulnerability to heal that shame. Um, so I'm talking a lot, Lisa. Is there anything you want
No,
to
I love
add or
it.
throw in?
Well, I was just gonna say, like I think, yeah, I think it really goes down to like that intention and being intentional with your life. I know you and Tyler, I was listening to your recent episode on like the energy you put out there and
Mm-hmm.
kind of what you attract into your life. And it's true. It's like, if you get to a place where you're like, you may not even like even going back to the podcasting, it's like, you might not feel ready or good enough or like, what do I have to share? But if you don't take that leap of faith, you'll never know.
That's a great example. Like some of my first podcasts, if you went back and listened, like, ugh, like, oh my gosh, like, how did anybody listen to that? Um, but that's the cave, right? That's the space of like, I'm gonna get rejected by some
Mhm.
people. People aren't gonna like this. Just gonna keep like trying
Yeah,
and getting better
yeah.
and seeing who I am here. I'm gonna discover who I am through staying in this state, and I might discover that I'm not a podcaster.
Hmm.
I might discover that I am way good at this, but I won't know unless I stay in that place for a minute.
Yeah. I have, friends and family that listen, and my cousin and her husband listen, and he was like saying how he enjoys mine, and he's like, it makes me want a podcast. And I don't know if it was him or his wife, but they're like, what does a 75-year-old man have to share with the world? And I was like, you
Oh
won't
my
know. You
gosh.
won't know unless you try. Like, don't self-limit, but take that risk
But
and
but
go for it.
my first thought, Lisa, is like, what does a 75-year-old man have to share? Like so much.
Yes,
Like wisdom.
I know.
Like yeah,
Yeah.
stories and anyways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell him to come on my podcast. He's
Oh,
invited to come
I
share some
might do
stories. Yeah.
that. He'd probably love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I know for me, um, I kind of found you and found your podcast in a time where I was in like that stuck kind of place and doing things more out of like shoulds and just kind of I guess more surviving versus
Mm-hmm.
thriving, and I kind of consider it to be like divine timing, where like I came across your stuff and really started listening and thinking about my own life and like what shifts can I make, and since then like I always joke and say when it comes to like emotional stuff, I'm like a black diamond skier. I'll face
Uh-huh.
everything and go
Uh-huh.
right in, but it's helped me to get like brave in other areas where I'm usually like a scaredy cat. Like I tried skiing, which I cried the whole way going down the mountain, but I was still so proud of
Good
myself that
job.
I tried it and was terrified. Indoor skydiving until
Nice.
one day I'm going to do skydiving
Yeah,
when
yeah.
my kids are old enough that if I
Was
don't
was
take it,
indoor skydiving scary?
it
Was it like
was no, it was pretty cool.
it's just cool because you're just like
Yeah,
floating right
you're
above that. Yeah.
floating and flying around, and it was neat.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to do that.
Yeah, you
So,
should. I've tried, Matt and I have done like the cold plunge.
uh-huh. Yeah, I'm
He
doing that
actually,
later today actually.
yeah, he actually
Yeah.
did that yesterday. He filled the tub with like ice cubes and
Good for him.
jumped
That's
in. I was like,
great.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um I love that you bring this up. And I don't think like we're all built to just go do wild and crazy adrenaline things, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I like what you're saying about like we have our strong suits. I think some people can really explore things spiritually. Some people can really explore things sexually or emotionally or physically or whatever it is. And I think it's a good idea to say like, okay, where am I just like not exploring anything? And
Mhm.
so I'm gonna go take a risk. I'm gonna go do something different, experience something new.
Yeah.
Um, so I love it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
use the example with my clients. I don't know if you ever heard the story where it's like this guy's stranded on an island and he's like waiting. He's like, I'm going to wait for God to save me.
Mm-hmm.
And so along comes this fisherman and he brings fish and he's like, nope, nope, I'm waiting on God to provide for me. And then along comes this guy and he brings a boat offering to like take him back to safety. He's like, "No, I'm waiting for God to save me." And then finally God comes along and he's like, "Hey, I sent you a fish. I sent you a boat. Like, come on, man."
I
You know,
know.
it's I was just talking about on my podcast recently about it's like finding that balance between like I did an episode on like completely just surrendering my life and my will over to God and also doing the things that I can do in my life, like taking that personal responsibility to be brave with my life, to be intentional, to create like things that make me joyful or passionate and
Well, I think as you're talking, Lisa, I'm thinking about like all of us. W- I, my experience is I feel God and I feel flow and I feel truth when I'm present. And so but like we work so hard to not be present um with our distractions. Our ego is really helping us to not stop
Mhm.
and find stillness. And um and God is right there. And but we don't know it because we're like playing our game on our phone
Mhm.
um or watching the next show or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And and yet a lot of people are like, oh, I don't feel at peace. I want more out of my life. I want this. I want that. Um, but hurry and get me to that numbing out. Like hurry and get. So how are you gonna like get to that knowing and that peace if you're always disconnected,
Mhm.
right? And I like your story because that's so true. I've seen it in my clients so many times, of like, where's God? Where's God? And I can look at their life and be like, oh my gosh, there's God winks everywhere in
Yes.
your life. I can see them. Like you
Yeah.
sitting here today in front of me is a God wink. Like, um, but you're just kind of stuck in your misery
Mhm.
and unable to see it. I've heard that story a different way where a guy falls off a building
Mm.
and he's praying. Have you heard this one?
Mm-mm.
He's like praying like, God save me, please. And then this nail sticking out of the building and it catches his shirt and
Mhm.
he's hanging there and he's like, never mind, God, the nail got me. um and I think it's just so true. Like and it's such a problem when it comes to like recovery because think about it. If my perception is that God will never show up for me or is that I'm not loved, then when that nail catches me or that fisherman comes by, I'm still gonna create the story that like I'm not loved or God's not there for me. The exact same thing could happen to two different people and they could interpret it completely opposite, right?
Mhm.
Um and so I think just to open up. Now, a lot of times there's a lot of defensiveness to actually like like taking that love and because we're scared of God because of our trauma
Mhm.
and our attachment wounds. So it can get it's more complex than it than to just be like, can't you be grateful? Can't you see that as God? Right?
Yeah.
So
And I think, on the podcast, I talk about the concept of like a ground zero moment where it's like you're just going along life and the rug gets pulled out from under you. And
hmm
um, if you look for the bad, you talk about this, what do you say? When the crap lands on you, you could use it to drown or it could be
hmm
used for manure. And it's like some people can look at that and be like, oh, I've done it. Like there was a time I was in that fixed mindset of like, why is this like why you're a victim to life? Like why is this happening to me? Why is it so hard? Why is it so unfair? Or, you could use that as like a pivot point, like a life changing. Your house just burnt down. You get to rebuild brand new from scratch. Like what do you want that to look like? And an opportunity to connect further with God and yourself. And
yeah. I um yeah, those two of my favorite analogies are manure. If you were driving behind a manure truck and it buried you, but you can get buried by the shit, right? The manure, and I think that what a horrible way to go, suffocating under that.
yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
um, but what's crazy is like what manure is used for is fertilizer.
Hmm.
Um, and if you're like, oh, I'm in the thick of it, I'm in the thick of this stuff that helps me grow.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden your head pops out into the light again, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is helping me.
Yeah.
And that's easy. That's easy to say, but when you're in the thick of it,
Hmm.
it can feel overwhelming.
Hmm.
Um, the other one is my two donkeys in a well. Have you heard that one?
No, I'm surprised I've
Uh,
been
uh,
for so long, but
so randomly on a farm or whatever, there was
Mhm.
two wells, and two donkeys each fell down one well at the same time. And so the farmer came along and thought, this is weird. My two donkeys like fell down a well each. So he started shoveling dirt one into each well with a scoop back and forth. And one of the donkeys looked up and just thought like, "Oh, what is he doing? Not only have I fallen down a well, now he's burying me down here." And he stood there and got buried. And the other one, the dirt would hit his back and he'd shake a little bit and it would shake off and he'd take a step up.
Ah,
You see it?
yeah.
Yeah. So it's just growth mindset versus fixed mindset thinking of
Mhm.
like, oh, there's dust, there's dirt, that's what's gonna be. Shake it off, move up.
Yeah.
Um, why not live our life that way?
Yeah.
Why not embrace the manure,
Yep.
right?
Because it's gonna come. It's just, that's part of
I haven't
humaning.
met anybody who's avoided it. I haven't met one person
Not
who's
one
avoided.
person that's avoided it.
Yeah, avoided the manure or yeah, whatever we want
No,
to
you
call it.
can't. Yep, life humaning. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um, anything else that we're
well, we're
missing?
kind of going all over,
I
Lisa, but
know we are going all over.
can I try to tie it all together?
Yeah, please
So
do.
I'll let me see if I can. Um, so addiction is about of like disconnecting. It's about avoidance. Um, recovery is about turning and facing things
Yeah.
with gratitude. And and recovery is not about like getting to some perfect place, but it's about navigating life as it hits you, as it comes,
Mhm.
and finding God and finding peace and finding love throughout that process. And so all this stuff that we've talked about um, it is our principles of real recovery. And I think we're all in a state of what we can call it whatever we want,
Yeah.
but we're in a state of growth. And so if you don't want to be stuck in numbing your life out in addiction, then deal with the pain as it comes with gratitude
Mhm.
and learn from it and grow from it. And It's a beautiful thing, and that's recovery.
Yep.
Did I do a good job at that?
You did a great job.
Okay,
Thank
okay. Yeah.
you. Yeah. Um, the one last thing I wanted to touch on is just I have a few clients that they're friends with each other and they talk about working with me and I teach this concept um, called about being like kind and loving, but boundary like a motherfucker. That's
I love
that's,
it.
that's my favorite quote.
I love
Um,
it.
you teach a lot about boundaries. Could you just touch upon like what boundaries are about and why they're important to have?
Wow, Lisa, you just busted out like my favorite topic
Yeah.
here. Like I could go on and on. Boundaries are so misunderstood. Um, but really, boundaries are just the acts of being authentic, is what it is. So it's protecting who we are, ourselves. Boundaries aren't about somebody else; they're about you.
Yep.
Um, your bound the roots of your boundaries are what you value. And sometimes you have conflicting values, so it's hard to know what is authenticity here, what is boundaries here. Um, but it's your values. So healthy boundaries absolutely can destroy relationships because if you have toxic people around you, they won't like to be in a relationship with someone who's healthy in their boundaries. They want to consume you, they want to use you, they want to take advantage. Um, they want to live in a relationship where there's not trust, things like that. And a boundaried person will be like, no, like I'm authentic, I'm real with you. That's not going to work. So it can destroy a relationship. And so that's where it becomes this. All humans go through this. It's this like catch 22 of like, okay, I don't want to destroy my relationships because relationship is the most important thing. And how dare I change the nature of that relationship or end that relationship or whatever. I can't do that because I just can't. Well,
Hmm.
yes, we can, and we need to. Um, and and Lisa, I've seen you do this.
Hmm.
Like you've been awesome at this. Um, of saying I'm gonna choose my self respect and my values, and really healthy boundaries are an invitation to a deeper, better relationship. So if you're really healthily boundaried with me, Lisa, I'll know who you are.
Hmm.
Like I'll know you.
Right.
And that's beautiful. And if I actually care about you and I actually want to be in a relationship with you, I won't like be trying to tear down your boundaries. I'll be like encouraging you and empowering you to be you. Like that's
Mhm.
amazing. Um and so yes, boundaries destroy relationships. Boundaries also are the opportunity
Right.
to create healthy relationship. So
Exactly.
that's a lot right there, Lisa. That's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
I love talking healthy boundaries.
Yeah. You'll have to come on another time and just do a whole topic on that.
Yeah. I could. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always just say to clients too that sometimes the lack of healthy boundaries really destroys a relationship too, because when you're not being open and honest and, you're just kind of being that yes person or I don't care, it doesn't matter, you decide, but then you're becoming angry and resentful and that's very damaging to the relationship and to yourself because you're abandoning your truths and your
That's like the great lie that we tell ourselves is I'm going to shut up and not be honest and not be boundaried because I'm scared that they won't like me or the relationship will get affected.
hmm
Well, you're going to end up like in a ton of resentment.
hmm
You're going to end up just miserable, and you are destroying your relationship by not being honest. Like
yeah,
you are.
yeah,
Um, so you're absolutely right.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brandon, for coming on and sharing some of like the concepts that you teach and practice and it
You're
really
welcome, Lisa. I feel like I just kind of vomited it all out, like, blah!
I know. I'm like all well, I think I was like, well, Brandon does this and this. Like, tell us all your great things. So they are kind of
Yeah, all over.
random, but they're all really great things that I think, again, have really helped shift my life, and I think could shift anybody's life. And people, if they are stuck in that rut or they're in that ground zero moment, or where do I go from here? It's like these are all very important principles to teach to make major life changes. So,
Absolutely. And I just want to say like it is possible to go from a state of shame or stuckness
mm,
to a place of power and peace and acceptance. And the pathway is through courage, but
mhm.
it's possible. Like you're a great example of that to me, Lisa, of a person who lives that way and who has done that. So it's there for anybody who's willing to take that journey.
Yeah, yeah. So, I don't know. If anybody here listened to something that was helpful, please share it with somebody that you think could benefit from taking these next steps and creating like a better, more brave and open-hearted life. So,
Yeah.
thanks again, Brandon. Do you want to share where people could reach you if they
Well, I'll just say this. Uh, so Lisa is going to guest on our podcast, the Therapy Brothers
would?
podcast. So check us out, the Therapy Brothers, and go listen to Lisa's episode
Yeah.
over at the Therapy Brothers. And from there, from Therapy Brothers, you can kind of get into everything that we have going on,
Hmm.
from our Reclaim Your Heart program, group work, retreats, things like that. But just start with the podcast, the Therapy Brothers. Check us out.
Yeah. And I think you should go on one of his retreats because from what I've heard, they're life-changing and really like putting all of this into action. So,
Yeah,
all right. Well, thanks, Brandon.
you're welcome.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Yay. Thank you so much.